Welcome to the Workplace Minute, powered by H3HR Advisors and sponsored by WorkHuman. Thanks for joining me for your quick update on what's important in the world of work. My name is Steve Boese. Today in the Workplace Minute, I want to talk about something that's weighing heavily on the minds of a lot of workers in America right now. The growing sense of stress, unease, and burnout driven by yet another wave of layoffs across tech and corporate America. And I want to frame this conversation around the just-announced job cuts at Amazon because they perfectly capture the disconnect many workers are feeling right now between corporate success and personal job security. Let's break it down. Amazon this week announced plans to cut roughly 16,000 corporate jobs. That adds to the approximately 14,000 roles it cut late last year, bringing the total to about 30,000 corporate layoffs in just a few months. These cuts span a range of functions, including AWS, Prime Video, and corporate support roles, and they're being described by the company as part of an ongoing restructuring effort. And what makes this announcement especially jarring is that it comes at a time when Amazon is doing extraordinarily well financially. The company just reported around $21 billion in profit in its most recent quarter. That's a massive number by any standard, and one that reflects strong revenue growth and improved margins. In other words, these layoffs are not happening because Amazon is in trouble or fighting for survival. They're happening at a time of strength. And in public statements and internal communications, Amazon's leadership has framed these cuts as necessary to simplify the organization, to reduce layers of management, increase speed and ownership. And executives have pointed to the rapid hiring that took place during the pandemic years, which are a few years ago now, but suggesting the company became too complex and too bureaucratic, and these reductions are about refocusing their business and aligning their resources around longer-term priorities, including, of course, AI. From a business strategy perspective, those explanations sound rational, but from a worker's perspective, they land much differently. When one of the most profitable companies in the world is cutting tens of thousands of jobs, it sends a clear and unsettling message. Even strong performance and record profits are no longer a guarantee of stability or security, really, to any worker anywhere. And this is not just about Amazon. Layoffs like these are happening in the context of a broader pattern that workers have been living with over the past few years. Throughout 2024 and 2025, we've seen repeated rounds of layoffs across tech, finance, media, professional services. Layoffs have gone from being exceptional events to something that feels routine and maybe almost normalized. So for many workers, it's no longer a question of if layoffs will happen at their company, but when. That kind of environment creates constant low-grade anxiety at work. Even people who are still employed feel the stress. They worry about being the next to be cut. They hesitate to make long-term plans. They might work longer hours to try to prove their value. They might take on more responsibility without any additional support. And over time, a combination of fear, pressure, and uncertainty leads directly to burnout. And what's especially damaging is the erosion of trust. When companies that are posting massive profits still default to large-scale job cuts, it challenges the idea that loyalty, performance, and contribution are rewarded with stability and security. It reinforces the belief that workers are just expendable, line items that can be removed quickly to satisfy efficiency goals or stock market expectations, or if you're cynical about this, just to help CEOs meet their incentive compensation metrics. This is the moment where HR and business leaders need to pause and ask the harder questions. Are layoffs truly the only option, or are they simply the fastest and easiest one? Are we treating job cuts as a strategic last resort, or just as a convenient lever that we can pull whenever there's pressure to optimize? Or do we see our competition making cuts and then take that as a free pass to do the same in our organization? Certainly there are alternatives to job cuts, and they require more effort, more creativity, and simply more courage. Leaders can invest more seriously in internal mobility, retraining, and redeployment rather than simply defaulting to separations. They can be more transparent and sooner, helping employees understand the business realities instead of leaving them in the dark until the cuts are announced. And they can slow down, examine what structural changes or leadership decisions, and not just excess headcount, are the real sources of inefficiencies. And when layoffs do happen, because sometimes they will, leaders can choose to handle them with far more humanity. How people are treated on the way out matters just as much as the business rationale behind these decisions. It shapes the culture that remains, and it sends a powerful signal to the employees who are left behind. At a time when many workers are already stretched very thin, dealing with affordability challenges, political and social tensions, caregiving obligations, and ongoing uncertainty about the future of work, we should be pushing ourselves to do more than simply following the latest layoff trend. Profitable companies especially have both the means and the responsibility to lead differently. If layoffs have become the default response to complexity or technological change, then we've lost sight of the role organizations should play in supporting people and not just optimizing numbers. This is a moment for leaders to prove that people first is more than a slogan, that it actually means something when decisions get hard. Thank you so much for listening, and a big thank you to WorkHuman for supporting the Workplace Minute. If this episode made you think about the social contract between your company and your employees, please share it with a colleague. I'm Steve Boese, and this has been the Workplace Minute from HR Advisors.